Ladies and gentlemen, Sam is now a hurricane. This is the latest information as of the 11 a.m. Eastern Time advisory. But here's the cone. We'll get to that in a second. So, this is the public advisory that was just released. So, as of 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or 1500 UTC, center of Hurricane Sam was located near latitude 11.8 degrees north, 47.3 degrees west. It is moving just north of due west near 14 miles per hour, and this motion is expected to continue through tonight. So this thing is starting to slow down a little bit. It's slowing down bit by bit. So, and a decrease in forward speed with a motion towards the west-northwest is expected over the weekend. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 75 miles per hour since the last video. At 5 a.m., they came out with an advisory, and they designated this a hurricane at 75 miles per hour, the exact same pressure, 993 millibars. So this hurricane right now is pausing its intensification phase right now. So yeah, so that's what's going on with it. But also, what's also happening is that the outer parts of Hurricane Sam right here, the outer part of this is also expanding in size. So, like I said in one of my other videos, sometimes these hurricanes will trade rate of intensification for growth of the system essentially. And as you can see right here, this system went from this and is now expanding in size. Like I can show you like bit by bit right here. So about 5 hours ago, the core was very tiny compared to hurricanes. It was very small right here. Now I'm gonna keep doing this. There we go. It's starting. There it goes. It's starting to expand quite a bit. It's starting to grow, and there you have it. Yeah, and also, I believe in the last 2.5 hours, a convective plume just exploded on the northwestern side of it. So, yeah, that definitely means this thing is not stopped intensifying. It just means that it's taking a break right now, so that way it can just expand in size a little bit more. Remember that figure skater analogy I made in my last video? So, so for those of you who are new to this, basically what happens is if you're a figure skater and your arms are way out like here, you're gonna be larger in size, but you're gonna the way you spin, the speed of your spin is slower. Where if you're right here, the spin is much faster, but you're much smaller. So this thing right now is basically trading rate of intensification for size, which isn't necessarily good, considering that it would bring the storm surge values up in the storm if as it expands in size. So yeah. Now we're going to go to the cone. This was the 5 a.m. cone. This is the cone as of 5 a.m. And as you can see, it becomes a major hurricane by 2 p.m. on Saturday. Basically, it's expected still, according to this public advisory, is forecast to resume in rapid intensification is forecast to resume over the next several days, and it is likely to become a major hurricane tomorrow. So it'll basically make this jump from a 75 mile per hour hurricane to at least a 115 mile per hour hurricane in the next day or so. So that's not good. But back to the cone. This was as of 5 a.m. Friday. As you can see, it becomes a major hurricane. They increase the maximum winds to 130 miles per hour on this, and as you can see, that's where the cone goes out to. Now, there is a slight motion deviation in the next cone, and I'm gonna spot it out for you guys. So this is the latest cone right as of 11 a.m. on Friday. As you can see, those tropical storm force winds have, even though it says it's 60 miles from the center, we know that this hurricane is expanding. So they might even be 65 miles from the center. So yeah, so it becomes a major hurricane on Saturday. But then notice how how this cone shifts a little more towards the west. If you're in the northern Leeward Islands, that's not generally what you want to hear. I'm not saying, now keep in mind, I'm not saying it's going to make landfall in the Leeward Islands or anything. There's no model that shows it making landfall in the Leeward Islands. I can show you this right now. As you can see, the models for the next 24 hours are pretty consistent, and then they've started to shift a little more towards the west than previous cycles. But like I said, no model has this thing making landfall on any of the Leeward or Windward Islands or the Virgin Islands or anywhere in the Lesser Antilles. I want to make that very clear. But this shift towards the west does bring more impacts to parts of the northern Leeward Islands. Now, if considering that this hurricane's expanding in size, now we may see some impact from the outer bands. Now that's maybe a factor. So that may be a factor. Right now, the hazards affecting land are none, but we could see some larger swells. We could see some more rip currents. So yeah, that's generally not good. Also, here's the latest intensity models right here, and a majority of it keep it at a Cat 3, but NHC is going with Category 4 strength, and so are several of these models right here. So there you have it right here. Some of these models have it going up to about a 145 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane before starting to weaken off a little bit. The COTI, though, just has it surging up to a Cat 4 and then just plummeting down to a tropical storm in 5 days. That's likely not going to happen unless something detrimental happens to its core. That's not going to happen. So back to the satellite right here. This hurricane. Okay, I'm looking at this right now. Yeah, this hurricane, like I said, went from this tiny core into expanding in size. So it's, at this point right now, it's trading size for intensification. Well, the other way around. It's intensification for size, and that's normal for these things to do that sometimes. And especially the weaker hurricanes, they will generally stop intensifying for a little bit so they can get better organized and everything before they start exploding in intensity again. That's what Hurricane Ida did in just last month. It went to a Cat 1, slowed its intensification so it could organize, became a Cat 2, and still need to get organized, and then it exploded in intensity about 15 hours before landfall and became a Cat 4. So these things are generally normal for that to happen, especially weaker hurricanes. For stronger hurricanes, what generally happens is an eyewall replacement cycle, and we talked about this before. It's essentially where an outer eyewall forms and takes the place of the inner eyewall, which weakens the storm but also expands its wind field. So yeah, that's the latest what we have on Hurricane Sam. I'm going to give you a few key takeaways. First key takeaway: it's stopped intensifying briefly, but this is briefly. It's going to continue its intensification phase. It's just trading size for basically trading intensification for strength. Well, the other way around. You get what I'm saying. And nothing's really changed on that, but just keep in mind, rapid intensification is expected to continue soon. Key takeaway number 2. The cone, a little later out, has shifted a little bit more towards the west, which means we could see a little bit more impacts, especially in the northern Leeward Islands. Keep in mind, there is no model that says that it's going to make landfall on the Leeward Islands. I want to make that very clear. So if you're watching this from the northern Leeward Islands, if you're watching this from Barbuda, if you're watching this from the Virgin Islands, I want you to understand very carefully, there is no model that has this making landfall as a major hurricane yet. Well, heck, not yet. I'll show you the tracks right here. The majority, they stay offshore, although with this shift to the west, it does look like there could be some more impacts on land. So that's basically ties into key takeaway 3. So key takeaway 4, intensification. It's expected to explode in intensity, get up to Category 4 strength. So yeah, according to the NHC, the rest of the models keep it at Cat 3, but either way, it's still going to be a major hurricane. That's the next takeaway. Final takeaway: Satellite imagery is right here. There's a convective burst that blew up right here, and the storm is visibly expanding in size. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. So that's all the updates I have on SAM. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for more updates.